Listen up, because what I'm about to tell you will blow your mind. 5 years ago, I was told I'd never make it without a man. Today, I'm sitting in my own 3-bedroom house, watching my twin daughters play in our backyard, and I'm about to reveal the most shocking twist that changed everything. But first, let me take you back to the day my world completely fell apart. Or so I thought. My name is Jessica, and if you think you know where this story is going, trust me, you don't. What happened to me was so unexpected, so unbelievable, that even I couldn't have seen it coming. And by the end of this story, you'll understand why some betrayals turn out to be the greatest blessings in disguise. It was a freezing December morning in Denver, Colorado, and I was 24 years old, working double shifts at a local diner just to help pay the bills. My boyfriend of 4 years, Trevor, had been out of work for 6 months, and honestly, I was starting to feel like his personal ATM. But I loved him, you know. At least, I thought I did. I remember walking into our cramped studio apartment after a 14-hour shift, my feet killing me, smelling like bacon grease and coffee. Trevor was sprawled on the couch, playing video games, empty beer bottles scattered around him like confetti. The sight made my stomach turn, but I swallowed my frustration. "Hey babe," I said, trying to keep my voice light. "Any luck with the job interviews today?" He didn't even look up from his game. "Yeah, about that. I think I'm gonna take a break from the whole job search thing. It's stressing me out too much." I felt something snap inside me. "Trevor, we're 3 months behind on rent. Mrs. Henderson called again today threatening to evict us. I can't keep doing this alone." That's when he paused his game and turned to look at me with this smug expression that I'll never forget. He stood up, walked over to me, and grabbed my chin with his fingers, tilting my face up to look at him. "Listen carefully, Jess," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. "You can't survive without me. You think you're tough, but you're nothing without me. You're just a small-town girl who barely graduated high school. Without me, you'd be living in some trailer park, probably knocked up by some loser." I felt tears burning my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. "Trevor, I'm not finished," he interrupted, his grip on my chin tightening. "You need me more than I need you. So quit your whining and be grateful that I'm even here. Any other guy would have left your pathetic ass by now." In that moment, standing there in our messy apartment, something inside me died. But something else was born too. A fire that I didn't even know existed. I pulled away from him and walked to the bathroom, locked the door, and stared at myself in the mirror. The girl looking back at me had hollow eyes and defeat written all over her face. But as I stood there, I made a promise to myself. I was going to prove him wrong, even if it killed me. What Trevor didn't know was that I had been secretly saving money in a bank account he knew nothing about. Every tip, every extra shift, every dollar I could scrape together went into that account. I called it my emergency fund, but really, it was my escape fund. The next morning, while Trevor was passed out on the couch, I quietly packed a single suitcase with my essentials. I left a note on the kitchen counter that simply said, "Watch me." I walked out of that apartment with $300 in cash, a beat-up Honda Civic, and a determination that could move mountains. I had no idea that in just a few weeks, I'd discover something that would change my life forever. And I definitely didn't know that Trevor's cruel words would end up being the catalyst for the most incredible transformation of my life. But here's the thing that'll really get you. What I discovered about myself after leaving him wasn't just that I could survive without him. It was that I was capable of so much more than I ever imagined. And the twins I mentioned? Well, that's where this story gets really crazy. But before I tell you about the day that changed everything, I need you to do me a favor. If this story is already getting to you, hit that like button and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Your support means the world to me. And trust me, you're going to want to follow along for what happens next because this is just the beginning of the most unbelievable journey. Tomorrow, I'll tell you about the phone call that turned my world upside down and how I went from being a broken-hearted girl with $300 to discovering I had inherited something that would change my life forever. But that revelation? It came with a price I never saw coming. 3 days after leaving Trevor, I was staying at a cheap motel on the outskirts of Denver, surviving on gas station coffee and granola bars. I'd been applying for jobs nonstop, but let's be real. Without a permanent address, it was nearly impossible to get hired anywhere decent. I was sitting on the scratchy motel bedspread, laptop balanced on my knees, when my phone rang. The caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize from Santa Fe, New Mexico. Normally, I'd let it go to voicemail, but something told me to answer. "Hello?" I said, my voice hoarse from crying myself to sleep the night before. "Is this Jessica Marie Rodriguez?" The voice was professional, kind of formal. "Yes, this is she. Who's asking?" "Ms. Rodriguez, this is attorney Patricia Wozniak from Wozniak and Associates in Santa Fe. I'm calling regarding your great-aunt Elena Rodriguez. I'm sorry to inform you that she passed away 3 weeks ago." My heart stopped. Great-aunt Elena. I barely remembered her. She was my grandmother's sister, and I think I'd met her maybe twice when I was a kid. She lived in some small town in New Mexico and never really kept in touch with our family. I'm sorry for your loss," I stammered, "but I'm not sure why you're calling me." "Well, Ms. Rodriguez, this is where it gets interesting. Your great-aunt Elena left you something in her will. Could you possibly come to Santa Fe to discuss this in person? It's quite urgent." I almost laughed. "Ma'am, I appreciate the call, but I'm currently between homes and I don't exactly have money for a trip to New Mexico. Whatever it is, I'm sure it's not worth—" "Ms. Rodriguez," she interrupted gently, "I understand your situation might be difficult right now, but I strongly encourage you to make this trip. Your great-aunt left you her property, and there are some unique circumstances we need to discuss." "Property?" My great-aunt Elena owned property. This had to be some kind of mistake. "What kind of property are we talking about?" I asked, my curiosity getting the better of me. "A ranch, Ms. Rodriguez. About 150 acres just outside Taos. But there's more to it than that. Can you be here by Friday? I can arrange for your travel expenses to be covered." I stared at the peeling wallpaper of my motel room, trying to process what I was hearing. A ranch? 150 acres? This couldn't be real. Yes, I can be there," I managed to say. After hanging up, I sat in stunned silence. Then I called my mom, who was living in Phoenix with her new husband. "Mom, did you know great-aunt Elena owned a ranch?" There was a long pause. "Honey, Elena was complicated. She left the family when she was young, moved to New Mexico, and we barely heard from her after that. Your grandmother always said she was living like some kind of hermit out there. Well, apparently she left me her ranch. Jessica, sweetheart, be careful. Elena was always a little eccentric. If she left you something, there's probably a catch." But I was already packing my suitcase. What did I have to lose? The drive to Santa Fe took about 6 hours, and I spent the entire time wondering what the hell I was walking into. The lawyer's office was in a beautiful adobe building downtown, and Patricia Wozniak was a sharp woman in her 50s, with kind eyes and silver hair. "Ms. Rodriguez, thank you for coming. Please, have a seat." She gestured to a leather chair across from her desk. "I have to be honest with you. This is one of the most unusual situations I've handled in my 30 years of practice." She opened a thick folder and pulled out several documents. "Your great-aunt Elena owned the Esperanza Ranch, which has been in operation for over 40 years. It's completely self-sufficient. Solar power, well water, organic farming, and it generates about $80,000 annually through various agricultural contracts." My jaw dropped. $80,000? Annually? Yes, but here's where it gets complicated. Elena's will has very specific conditions. To inherit the ranch, you must live there for a minimum of 1 year, maintain the current agricultural contracts, and— She paused, looking uncomfortable. "And what?" "And care for the 12 rescue animals currently living on the property." I blinked. 12 rescue animals? 3 horses, 4 goats, 2 pigs, 2 dogs, and a rather temperamental rooster named Guillermo. Despite everything, I started laughing. Not a happy laugh, but the kind of hysterical laugh that comes when your life gets so weird you can't even process it anymore. "Ms. Rodriguez, I know this is a lot to take in, but there's something else. Elena left you a letter." She handed me an envelope with my name written in shaky handwriting. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "Dear Jessica, I know we barely knew each other, but I've been watching your life from afar. I know about Trevor, and I know about your strength. You remind me of myself when I was young, trapped by someone who didn't see your worth. This ranch saved my life 50 years ago when I ran away from a man who told me I was nothing without him. Now it's your turn. You're stronger than you know, mija. Don't let anyone tell you different. The ranch isn't just property, it's freedom. Take it. Con amor, Tia Elena P.S. The chickens lay the best eggs you've ever tasted." I was crying by the time I finished reading. This woman I barely knew had somehow seen me, really seen me, and decided to throw me a lifeline. "So," I said, wiping my eyes, "when can I move in?" That evening, I drove out to the ranch for the first time. It was about 20 minutes outside Taos, down a dirt road that wound through stunning red rock formations. When I finally saw the property, I literally gasped. The house was a beautiful adobe structure with a wraparound porch and flower gardens everywhere. There were several outbuildings, a barn, an endless field stretching toward the mountains. It looked like something out of a magazine. But the real shock came when I walked onto the porch and found a note taped to the front door. Heard you inherited Elena's place. Figured you'd want to know she was 3 months pregnant when she moved here in 1974. The father was a married man from Denver who told her she'd never amount to anything. Just thought you should know you're not the first woman to prove a man wrong on this land. Your neighbor, Rosa. I stood there holding that note, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. But what I didn't know was that this ranch held more secrets than I could have ever imagined, and some of them were about to change my life in ways I never saw coming. Moving into the ranch was like stepping into someone else's life, a life I desperately wanted to be mine. The first week was a blur of learning how to care for animals I'd never dealt with before, and trying to figure out how Elena had managed to run this place all by herself. Let me tell you, those animals had personalities bigger than most people I knew. Guillermo, the rooster, was indeed temperamental, and seemed to have made it his personal mission to attack me every morning when I went to collect eggs. The horses, Luna, Cielo, and Estrella, were gorgeous but intimidating as hell. And the goats? Well, they were basically four-legged comedians who spent their days figuring out how to escape their pen. But the dogs, Copper and Sage, took to me immediately. They followed me everywhere, like they knew I needed the company. And honestly, I did. The silence of the ranch at night was so different from the city noise I was used to. Sometimes it was peaceful, sometimes it was overwhelming. It was during my second week there that I made a discovery that would change everything. I was cleaning out Elena's bedroom, trying to decide what to keep and what to donate, when I found a loose floorboard under the bed. Curiosity got the better of me, and I pried it up. Underneath was a metal box, heavy and locked. I searched the house for a key, and finally found one hidden inside an old coffee tin in the kitchen. My hands were shaking as I opened it. Inside were dozens of letters, all addressed to Elena, postmarked from the 1970s and 80s. But what caught my attention was the return address. They were all from a women's shelter in Denver called New Beginnings. I started reading, and what I discovered made my blood run cold. Elena hadn't just helped one woman escape an abusive relationship. She'd helped dozens. The ranch had been like an underground railroad for women fleeing domestic violence. They'd come here to heal, to figure out their next steps, and Elena had provided them with safety, work, and hope. But the most shocking letter was at the bottom of the box. It was from a woman named Maria Santos, dated 1983. Elena, I can never thank you enough for what you did for me and my babies. When I showed up at your door with my twin daughters, pregnant and scared, you took us in without question. You gave me a job, a place to live, and most importantly, you gave me my confidence back. I'm writing to let you know that I'm doing well in California now. The girls are thriving, and I've started my own business. I'm sending you the deed to the house in San Diego that I promised you. Consider it a small token of my gratitude. If you ever need anything at all, please don't hesitate to call. With all my love and gratitude, Maria Santos. I sat there staring at that letter, my mind racing. Twin daughters, a woman who'd fled an abusive relationship and ended up successful in California. The timeline was right. 1983 was about 9 months before I was born. I ran to Elena's desk and started going through her papers more carefully. That's when I found it. A birth certificate for Maria Santos, born in Denver in 1959, the same year as my mom. My hands were trembling as I called my mom. Mom, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Jessica, what's wrong? You sound upset. Is your real name Maria Santos? The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. Mom, where did you find that name? So it's true? You're Maria Santos? I heard her take a shaky breath. Jessica, sit down. There's something I should have told you a long time ago. I'm sitting. Your father. The man you think is your father. He's not your biological father. Your real father was a man named Derek Thompson. I was with him when I was 19. And he was not a good man, Jessica. He was controlling, manipulative, and when I got pregnant with you, he told me I was worthless and that I'd never amount to anything. My heart stopped. Mom, are you telling me I ran away when I was 7 months pregnant. I'd heard about Elena through a friend of a friend, and I showed up at her ranch with nothing but the clothes on my back. She took me in, gave me work, and helped me get back on my feet. But Mom, the letter mentioned twin daughters. Another long pause. Jessica, you had a twin sister. I felt like the world had tilted off its axis. What? Her name was Isabella. She was born first, but she had complications. She only lived for 3 days. I was crying now, tears streaming down my face. Mom, why didn't you ever tell me? Because it was too painful, and because I was afraid that if I told you about Derek, you might go looking for him. I wanted to protect you from that man. Where is he now? I don't know, and I don't want to know. Jessica, promise me you won't go looking for him. But I was already thinking about Trevor's words. You can't survive without me. And now I was learning that my own biological father had said something similar to my mother. Mom, there's something else. The ranch. Elena left it to me specifically. She knew about Trevor. She knew I needed this place. Elena always said she could spot a woman who needed saving from a mile away. She must have been watching over you. After I hung up, I sat in Elena's kitchen, surrounded by the ghosts of all the women who'd found refuge here. I thought about my twin sister Isabella, who never got the chance to grow up and prove anyone wrong. I thought about my mother, who'd been brave enough to leave everything behind for a chance at a better life. And I thought about Trevor, who had no idea that his cruel words had sent me straight into the arms of a family legacy I never knew existed. But as I sat there processing everything, I heard a car pulling up the driveway. I wasn't expecting anyone, and it was getting dark. I looked out the window and saw a beat-up pickup truck with Colorado plates. My blood ran cold when I saw who got out of the driver's seat. It was Trevor. He stood there in my driveway, looking around at the ranch with a mixture of confusion and anger on his face. Then he started walking toward the house, and I could see that familiar swagger that used to make my stomach turn. I locked the front door and grabbed my phone, my hands shaking. How had he found me? And more importantly, what did he want? He knocked on the door, and when I didn't answer, he started banging harder. Jess, I know you're in there. We need to talk. I pressed my back against the door, trying to think. The nearest neighbor was Rosa, but she was at least a mile away. I had no idea how to handle this situation. Jess, come on. I drove all the way from Denver to apologize. I've been thinking about what I said, and I was wrong. I need you back, baby. I can't survive without you. The irony wasn't lost on me, but this time, instead of feeling scared, I felt something else rising up in me. Anger, pure, righteous anger. I opened the door, keeping the chain lock engaged. How did you find me, Trevor? Your mom told me where you were. Look, I know I messed up, but I'm ready to change. We can make this work. My mom would never tell you where I am. He shifted uncomfortably. Okay, fine. I followed you. I've been watching you for weeks. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. He'd been stalking me. Trevor, you need to leave. Now. Come on, Jess. Look at this place. You can't possibly think you can handle running a ranch by yourself. You need me. I looked at him standing there in his wrinkled t-shirt and dirty jeans, and I saw him clearly for the first time. He wasn't some powerful man who held my fate in his hands. He was just a sad, insecure loser who was so threatened by my potential that he'd driven 6 hours to try to drag me back down to his level. Trevor, I said, my voice steady and calm, I want you to listen to me very carefully. I don't need you. I never needed you. And I'm about to prove it in a way that's going to blow your mind. But what I said next, and what happened over the following months, would change both of our lives forever. And the twins I mentioned at the beginning? Well, that's where this story takes a turn that even I didn't see coming. Trevor, I want you to get back in your truck and drive away. If you don't, I'm calling the police. He laughed that condescending laugh I remembered all too well. And tell them what? That your boyfriend drove down to check on you? Come on, Jess. Stop being dramatic. Ex-boyfriend. And you just admitted you've been stalking me. I prefer to call it caring about you. Look, I get it. You needed some space to cool off. But this little fantasy of yours is over. Pack your stuff and let's go home. I closed the door, slid the chain lock off, and opened it wide. Trevor's face lit up, thinking I was inviting him in. Instead, I stepped out onto the porch, and Copper and Sage immediately flanked me, growling low in their throats. Here's what's going to happen, I said, my voice stronger than I'd ever heard it. You're going to get in your truck and drive away. You're never going to contact me again. And if you even think about following me or showing up here again, I'll have you arrested for stalking. Jess, baby, You can't be serious. Look around. This place is in the middle of nowhere. You're going to get yourself killed out here. I'm doing just fine, Trevor. Better than fine, actually. He looked around at the ranch, and I could see the wheels turning in his head. Wait a minute. How are you paying for this place? There's no way you could afford. His eyes narrowed. Are you seeing someone else? Is some other guy paying your bills now? I almost laughed. Even now, he couldn't fathom that I might be capable of taking care of myself. This ranch is mine, Trevor. I inherited it, and I'm making more money here in a month than you made in the entire time I knew you. That was a lie. I hadn't actually started collecting any income yet, but I wanted to see his reaction. His face went through several expressions: confusion, disbelief, and finally, rage. You're lying. Am I? Trevor, I want you to take a good look at me. Do I look like the same girl who was crying over you 3 months ago? And honestly, I didn't. The ranch work had toned my arms and shoulders. The mountain air had cleared my skin. And most importantly, I stood differently, taller, more confident. You think you're better than me now? He spat. I don't think anything, Trevor. I know. He took a step toward me, and both dogs started barking. That's when I heard the sound of another vehicle coming up the driveway. A sheriff's patrol car pulled up, and out stepped a woman in uniform. She was tall, athletic, with graying hair pulled back in a neat bun. Evening, Jessica. Rosa called and said you might need some assistance. I'd never been so happy to see anyone in my life. Officer? Sheriff Martinez. And you are? She looked directly at Trevor. I'm her boyfriend, Trevor said, puffing out his chest. This is just a misunderstanding. Ex-boyfriend, I corrected. And he's been stalking me. Sir, I'm going to need to see some identification, Sheriff Martinez said, her hand resting casually on her belt. While Trevor fumbled for his wallet, the sheriff stepped closer to me. You okay, honey? I am now. Sir, I'm going to need you to come with me. We need to have a conversation about harassment and stalking laws in New Mexico. This is bullshit, Trevor exploded. I drove 6 hours to apologize to my girlfriend. Ex-girlfriend, I repeated. And Sheriff, he admitted to me that he's been following me for weeks. Trevor's face went pale. I didn't mean it like that. Sir, please put your hands behind your back. Watching Trevor get handcuffed in my driveway was one of the most satisfying moments of my life. As the sheriff car drove away, I felt like I could finally breathe again. But the drama wasn't over. The next morning, I got a call from Sheriff Martinez. Jessica, I need to talk to you about something. Can you come down to the station? Is everything okay? Trevor's fine. He's being released with a warning and a restraining order. But when we ran his information through the system, something interesting came up. An hour later, I was sitting in the sheriff's office, staring at a computer screen that showed Trevor's arrest record. He'd been arrested twice for domestic violence, once in 2018 and again in 2020. Both charges had been dropped when the women involved refused to testify. Jessica, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest with me. Did Trevor ever hit you? I thought about it. No, he never hit me, but he was controlling, manipulative. He made me feel like I was nothing without him. Emotional abuse is still abuse, honey, and based on his pattern, you're lucky you got out when you did. Sheriff, can I ask you something? How did Rosa know to call you last night? Sheriff Martinez smiled. Rosa was one of the women Elena helped back in the day. She's been keeping an eye on the ranch ever since Elena passed, waiting for the right person to take over. She said she knew you were the one the moment she saw you. What do you mean? Elena used to say that the ranch called to the women who needed it most. Rosa's been living in the area for 30 years, and she's seen a lot of women come and go. She said you have the same look Elena had when she first arrived, like you were running from something, but ready to fight for something better. That afternoon, I drove over to Rosa's house. She lived in a small adobe home about a mile from the ranch, with a garden that looked like something out of a fairy tale. I wanted to thank you for calling the sheriff last night, I said when she opened the door. Mija, that's what neighbors do. But sit down. There's something I need to tell you. Grr. We sat on her porch, sipping sweet tea and watching the sun set over the mountains. Elena used to keep journals, Rosa said. She wrote about every woman who came through the ranch. Before she died, she gave me one of those journals and asked me to give it to you when you were ready. She handed me a leather-bound book with my name written on the cover in Elena's shaky handwriting. She wrote about you for years, Jessica. She knew this day would come. I opened the journal to the first page. If you're reading this, it means you've inherited the ranch, and you're probably wondering why I chose you. The answer is simple. Because you're your mother's daughter, and your mother was one of the strongest women I ever knew. But there's something else you need to know. Something I never told Maria because I was afraid it would hurt too much. Isabella didn't die, Jessica. She was taken. My hands started shaking. What? Keep reading, mija. Derek Thompson, your biological father, took Isabella from the hospital when she was 3 days old. He told everyone she had died, but he actually gave her to his sister to raise. I tried to find her, but Derek was smart. He covered his tracks well. Jessica, you have a twin sister. Her name is Isabella Thompson, and she's alive. She lives in Phoenix, Arizona, and she's been looking for you for years. I'm sorry I never told your mother. I was afraid it would destroy her to know that one of her daughters was out there somewhere, being raised by the family of the man who hurt her. But you're stronger than your mother was at your age. You can handle this truth, and more importantly, you can find your sister and bring her home. Her address is on the next page. She's a nurse, she has 2 children of her own, and she's been searching for her birth family since she turned 18. The twins you mentioned at the beginning of your story, they're not yours, Jessica. They're Isabella's, and she's been waiting her whole life to meet you. I looked up at Rosa, tears streaming down my face. How is this possible? Elena spent 30 years trying to find Isabella. She finally tracked her down last year, but she was too sick to travel. She made me promise to make sure you got this information. Rosa, I have to go to Phoenix. I have to find her. I know you do, mija. But first, there's something else you need to know. Derek Thompson is still alive, and according to Elena's research, he's been looking for you too. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the face of a sister I'd never met, but had somehow been missing my entire life, Isabella, my twin, the other half of me that I didn't even know existed. By morning, I'd made my decision. I was driving to Phoenix. I called my mom first, and when I told her what I'd discovered, she broke down crying. Jessica, I'm so sorry. I should have told you, but Elena said she was gone, that she'd died. I held her for 3 days, and then they told me she was gone. Mom, it's not your fault. Derek lied to everyone. But I'm going to find her. Be careful, mija. If Derek is still alive and looking for you, this could be dangerous. I loaded up my Honda with enough supplies for a road trip and left Rosa in charge of the animals. The drive to Phoenix took about 7 hours, and I spent the entire time rehearsing what I would say to a sister I'd never met. Isabella's address led me to a middle-class neighborhood in Scottsdale. The house was a modest 2-story with a well-maintained yard and children's toys scattered on the front porch. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, working up the courage to knock on the door. Finally, I walked up to the porch and rang the doorbell. A woman's voice called out, "Just a minute!" When the door opened, I literally gasped. It was like looking into a mirror. Isabella had my face, my eyes, my smile. But where I was sun-weathered from ranch work, she was polished and professional. She was wearing scrubs, her hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. "Can I help you?" she asked. And then she stopped talking. Her eyes widened as she took in my face. "Are you Isabella Thompson?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Yes, Who are you?" "My name is Jessica Rodriguez. I think you're my sister." She grabbed the doorframe to steady herself. Oh my God, are you Jessica Maria? You know my name? I've been looking for you for 15 years. Come in. She pulled me into the house, and I could hear children's voices coming from the kitchen. "Mom, who's at the door?" A little girl's voice called out. "Emma, Sophie, come here. I want you to meet someone very special." 2 little girls, maybe 4 or 5 years old, came running into the living room. They were identical twins, with dark hair and bright brown eyes. "Girls, this is your Aunt Jessica. She's Mommy's sister." They looked at me with curious expressions, and Emma, the bolder of the 2, said, "You look just like Mommy. That's because we're twins, just like you 2, I said, kneeling down to their level. Isabella and I spent the next 3 hours talking non-stop. She told me about growing up with Derek's sister, Patricia, who had raised her as her own daughter. Patricia had been kind, but distant, and Isabella had always felt like something was missing from her life. "Patricia told me I was adopted when I turned 18, Isabella said. She said my birth mother had died, and that she didn't know anything about my birth father, but I always suspected there was more to the story." "What made you think that?" Patricia would get this look on her face whenever I asked questions, like she was hiding something. And then there were the nightmares. Nightmares. I've had the same dream since I was a child. I'm in a hospital, and there's another baby crying next to me. I always wake up feeling like I've lost something important. I felt chills run down my spine. "Isabella, I've had dreams like that too. Dreams about a sister I never met. She grabbed my hand. Jessica, I think we've been connected this whole time, even when we didn't know each other existed. Tell me about the girl's father, I said, looking at Emma and Sophie, who were now playing with dolls on the living room floor. Isabella's face darkened. His name was Marcus. He was a lot like Derek, I think. Controlling, manipulative. He told me I was nothing without him, that I'd never be able to raise the girls on my own. My heart stopped. What did you just say? He said I'd never be able to raise them alone. Why? Isabella, my ex-boyfriend, said the exact same thing to me, word for word. We looked at each other, and I could see the same realization dawning on both of our faces. Do you think it's genetic? She asked. Do you think we're somehow attracted to the same type of men? I don't know, but I'm glad we both got away from them. Actually, Isabella said quietly, I didn't get away from Marcus. He left me when the girls were 6 months old, said he couldn't handle the responsibility. Where is he now? I don't know. He sends child support sporadically, but we haven't seen him in over a year. That evening, after the girls were in bed, Isabella and I sat on her back porch, sharing a bottle of wine and years of stories. She told me about nursing school, about the struggles of being a single mom, about the emptiness she'd always felt despite having a good life. Jessica, can I ask you something? Anything. Do you ever feel like you're not complete, like part of you is missing? Every day of my life, I said. Until now, I feel the same way. Like I've been waiting my whole life for this moment. Isabella, there's something else I need to tell you. Something about Derek. I told her about Elena's journal, about Derek possibly looking for us, about the pattern of abuse that seemed to follow our family. I think he's dangerous, I said, and I think we need to be careful. Jessica, there's something I haven't told you. About 2 months ago, I started getting phone calls from someone who wouldn't give their name. They'd ask questions about my family, about where I worked, about the girls. I thought it was just a wrong number, but now you think it might be Derek. I'm scared, Jessica. What if he comes here? What if he tries to take the girls? He won't, I said firmly, because you're not alone anymore. We're going to protect each other. That night, I slept in Isabella's guest room, and for the first time in my life, I felt complete. I had found my sister, my other half, the missing piece of my soul, but the next morning, everything changed. I woke up to the sound of Isabella screaming. I ran to the kitchen and found her standing by the window, her face pale with terror. Jessica, look. I looked out the window and saw a man standing across the street, watching the house. He was tall, with graying hair and cold eyes. Even from a distance, I could see the resemblance. Is that Derek? Isabella whispered. That's our father. He stood there for maybe 30 seconds, just staring at the house. Then he got into a black sedan and drove away. How did he find us? Isabella asked, her voice shaking. I don't know, but we need to get out of here. Now. Jessica, I can't just leave. I have a job, a life here. Isabella, listen to me. This man destroyed our mother's life. He stole you from her. He's been looking for us for years, and now he's found us. We can't stay here. But where would we go? I looked at my sister, at her beautiful daughters who were innocently eating breakfast, and I made a decision that would change all of our lives. We're going to New Mexico, to the ranch. It's the one place where we'll be safe. Jessica, I don't know anything about ranch life. I'm a nurse, not a farmer. Isabella, you're a survivor, just like me, just like our mother, just like Elena. We'll figure it out together. She looked out the window again, as if expecting Derek to reappear. Okay, she said finally, but we leave today, right now. As we packed Isabella's car with her essentials and the girls' things, I couldn't help but think about the irony of the situation. Trevor had told me I couldn't survive without him, but here I was, about to save my sister and her daughters from a man who had terrorized our family for decades. But as we were loading the last of the suitcases, Isabella grabbed my arm. Jessica, wait. There's something else I need to tell you about Derek. Something I should have mentioned last night. What is it? Patricia, the woman who raised me, she died 6 months ago. Before she passed, she told me something that I've been too scared to share with anyone. What did she tell you? Isabella looked around nervously, as if Derek might be listening. She said that Derek didn't just take me from the hospital. She said he's done this before, with other women, other children. She said he's been hunting for you and our mother for 30 years, and that he won't stop until he finds you. My blood ran cold. What do you mean he's done this before? Patricia said Derek has a pattern. He finds vulnerable women, gets them pregnant, And then when they try to leave him, he takes their children. She said I wasn't the first child he brought to her. Isabella, are you telling me we have other siblings out there? I don't know. Patricia died before she could tell me more. But Jessica, she made me promise that if I ever found you, I would warn you. She said Derek is dangerous in ways we can't even imagine. I felt like the ground was shifting beneath my feet. How many other women had Derek terrorized? How many other children had he stolen? We need to get out of here, now. The drive from Phoenix to the ranch took 9 hours with stops for the girls. Isabella followed me in her car, and I kept checking my rearview mirror, paranoid that Derek might be following us. But the highway stayed clear, and by sunset, we were pulling up the dirt road to the ranch. Wow, Aunt Jessica, Emma said as she got out of the car. This place is huge. Can we pet the horses? Sophie asked, bouncing with excitement. Tomorrow, Isabella said, but I could see the wonder in her eyes as she looked around at the property. Girls, this is going to be our new home for a while. That first night, with Isabella and the girls safe in Elena's house, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't experienced since leaving Trevor. We were together, we were safe, and we were on land that had been protecting women like us for 50 years. But peace, I was learning, was often temporary. 3 weeks after Isabella and the girls moved to the ranch, we had settled into a routine that felt surprisingly natural. Isabella had taken a leave of absence from her job and was helping me manage the agricultural contracts. The girls were thriving in the open space, and even Guillermo the rooster had stopped attacking me every morning. It was Isabella who suggested we try to find out more about Derek's past. If he's really done this to other women, maybe we can find them. Maybe we can help each other. We spent hours online, searching public records and social media for any trace of Derek Thompson's history. What we found was disturbing. Derek had been married 4 times. Each marriage had ended with the wife filing domestic violence charges, and in 3 cases, children had mysteriously disappeared or died shortly after birth. But the records were spotty, and it was clear that Derek was good at covering his tracks. Jessica, look at this, Isabella said one evening, pointing to her laptop screen. I found a news article from 1978. The headline read, "Local woman dies in car accident. Infant missing." The woman's name was Linda Thompson. She was married to Derek Thompson, and she died in a single car accident when her infant son was 3 months old. The baby was never found. That's horrible. But what does it have to do with us? Jessica, look at the date. This happened 4 months before Derek met our mother. We stared at each other across Elena's kitchen table, the implications sinking in. You think he killed her? I think Derek has been doing this for a lot longer than we realized. The next day, I called Sheriff Martinez and told her what we'd discovered. She agreed to meet us at the ranch that afternoon to discuss our findings. Ladies, what you're describing sounds like a pattern of behavior that goes back decades, she said, reviewing the documents we'd printed out. But proving it would be nearly impossible without cooperation from law enforcement in multiple states. Sheriff, what can we do to protect ourselves? Isabella asked. I have 2 little girls to think about. You're doing the right thing by staying here. The ranch is isolated enough that you'd see anyone coming from miles away. And Rosa's got eyes like a hawk. She'll call me the moment she sees anything suspicious. But what if he comes here? What if he tries to take the girls? Sheriff Martinez looked at both of us seriously. Then you call me immediately. But ladies, I want you to understand something. Men like Derek, they're cowards at heart. They prey on vulnerable women, but they don't like fair fights. The fact that you 2 are together, that you're supporting each other, that alone makes you less appealing targets. That night, after the girls were asleep, Isabella and I sat on the porch talking about our options. Jessica, I've been thinking, maybe we should try to contact some of Derek's other victims. Maybe they know something that could help us. How would we find them? I still have some of Patricia's things in storage back in Phoenix. She kept a lot of paperwork over the years. Maybe there's something there that could give us clues. Isabella, going back to Phoenix feels dangerous. Not if we're smart about it. We could drive down, get the stuff from storage, and be back the same day. Against my better judgment, I agreed. The following Saturday, we left Emma and Sophie with Rosa and made the drive to Phoenix. Isabella's storage unit was in a facility on the outskirts of the city, and we planned to be in and out as quickly as possible. But as we were loading boxes into my car, I noticed a black sedan parked across the street from the storage facility, the same black sedan Isabella had seen outside her house. Isabella, I said quietly, don't look around, but I think we're being watched. She froze. Where? Black car across the street. Just keep loading boxes and act normal. We finished loading and got in the car. As I started the engine, the black sedan pulled out and began following us. "What do we do?" Isabella asked, her voice tight with fear. "We don't go home. We lead him away from the ranch." I drove toward downtown Phoenix, taking random turns and running yellow lights. The sedan stayed with us for about 20 minutes, and then suddenly, it was gone. "Where did he go?" Isabella asked, looking over her shoulder. "I don't know, but we're not taking any chances. We're going to drive around for another hour before we head home." When we finally got back to the ranch that evening, Rosa was waiting for us with a grim expression. "Mijas, we need to talk." She led us into the house, where Emma and Sophie were playing with dolls in the living room, seemingly unaware that anything was wrong. "About an hour after you left this morning, a man came by asking questions about you," Rosa said. "He said he was your father, and that he was worried about you." "What did you tell him?" I asked. "I told him I'd never seen you before in my life, but Mijas, he wasn't fooled. He knows you're here." Isabella sank into a chair, her face pale. "What are we going to do? We can't keep running forever." "We're not going to run," I said, surprising myself with the determination in my voice. "This is our home now. This is where we make our stand. Jessica, he's dangerous. You don't understand." "No, Isabella, you don't understand. I've been running from controlling men my whole life. First Derek, even though I didn't know it. Then Trevor. I'm done running. We're going to face this head on." That night I called Sheriff Martinez and told her about the day's events. She agreed to increase patrols around the ranch, but she was honest with us about the limitations of what law enforcement could do. "Until he actually commits a crime, my hands are tied. But if he sets foot on your property without permission, that's trespassing, and I can arrest him." As I hung up the phone, I realized that for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid. I was angry. Derek Thompson had stolen my sister from me for 30 years. He had terrorized my mother. He had probably hurt countless other women and children. But he wasn't going to hurt my family anymore. "Isabella," I said, "tomorrow we're going through Patricia's boxes. We're going to find out everything we can about Derek's past. And then we're going to make sure he can never hurt anyone else again. How are we going to do that? I don't know yet. But Elena didn't save this ranch for 50 years just so we could hide from the past. She saved it so we could fight back." As we started going through Patricia's papers the next morning, we found something that changed everything. Hidden in an old photo album was a letter addressed to Patricia, dated just 2 months before she died. The letter was from a woman named Carmen Rodriguez, and it was written in Spanish. Isabella translated it for me. "Patricia, I hope this letter finds you well. I'm writing because I think the time has come to tell the truth about Derek Thompson. I know you raised one of his stolen children, and I want you to know that you're not alone. My daughter was taken from me in 1981. Derek told everyone she died of SIDS, but I know he gave her to someone to raise. I've been looking for her for 40 years. If you're reading this, it means something has happened to me. But I want you to know that I never gave up hope of finding her. Her name was supposed to be Esperanza, hope. I believe she's still alive, somewhere out there, and I believe Derek Thompson will pay for what he's done, but not if we stay silent. Please, if you know anything about my daughter, contact the address on the envelope. I'm dying, but I want to know the truth before I go. Con amor y esperanza, Carmen Rodriguez." I looked at the return address. Carmen had lived in Taos, New Mexico, just 30 minutes from our ranch. "Isabella," I said, my voice barely a whisper, "I think we just found another sister." The address on Carmen Rodriguez's letter led us to a small cemetery just outside Taos. Carmen had died 8 months ago, according to the groundskeeper, but she'd left specific instructions that if anyone came looking for information about Esperanza Thompson, they should be directed to her nephew, Miguel Rodriguez. Miguel lived in a modest adobe house not far from the cemetery. When we knocked on his door that afternoon, he looked at Isabella and me with the same shock we'd experienced when we first met each other. "Dios mío," he whispered. "You look just like Esperanza." "You know our sister?" Isabella asked. "Sister? You're her sisters?" Miguel's eyes filled with tears. Come in. Esperanza is going to die when she sees you." "She's alive?" I could barely contain my excitement. "Very much alive. She lives in Santa Fe with her husband and 3 kids. She's been looking for her birth family her whole life." Miguel told us that Esperanza had been raised by Derek's cousin in Colorado, told that her mother had died in childbirth, and that she had no other family. Like Isabella, she'd grown up feeling like something was missing from her life. "Esperanza found Carmen 5 years ago," Miguel explained. Carmen had never stopped looking for her. But by then, Carmen was already sick with cancer. They only had a few years together before Carmen passed. Did Carmen ever find out about Derek's other children? I asked. She suspected there were others. She spent years documenting everything she could about Derek's past. She left it all to Esperanza. Miguel, we need to see Esperanza, and we need to see Carmen's research. I'll call her right now. 2 hours later, our family grew by 4 people. Esperanza arrived with her husband, Carlos, and their 3 children, 2 boys and a girl, ages 8 to 14. The moment Esperanza walked into Miguel's living room, all 3 of us started crying. She looked like Isabella and me, but with lighter hair and green eyes. She was taller, more athletic, but there was no mistaking the family resemblance. I can't believe this is happening, Esperanza said through her tears. I've dreamed of this moment my entire life. We all have, Isabella said. And suddenly we were in a 3-way hug that felt like coming home. Esperanza's research about Derek was extensive and horrifying. Carmen had been a retired social worker, and she'd used her connections to track Derek's movements across multiple states over 5 decades. According to what Carmen found, Derek has taken at least 12 children, Esperanza said, spreading files across Miguel's kitchen table. Maybe more. 12? I felt sick to my stomach. The pattern is always the same. He targets vulnerable women, young, isolated, financially dependent. He gets them pregnant, controls them throughout the pregnancy, and then when they try to leave or when the baby is born, he takes the child and tells everyone the baby died. What happens to the children? Isabella asked. He gives them to relatives or friends to raise, always with a story about tragic circumstances. The people who take the children usually have no idea they're participating in kidnapping. Like Patricia, Isabella said quietly. And like my adoptive parents, Esperanza added. They thought they were helping a family in crisis. Esperanza, do you think any of the other children know the truth? I asked. Some of them might. Carmen was able to make contact with 3 other families over the years. 2 of the children, now adults, wanted nothing to do with the truth. But one of them, a woman named Ana Gutierrez in Texas, has been helping Carmen research Derek's activities. How many of us are still out there? We don't know. But based on Derek's pattern and the timeline, Carmen estimated there could be 6 to 8 more siblings. The weight of this information was overwhelming. We weren't just 3 sisters who had found each other. We were part of a large family that had been systematically destroyed by one man's cruelty. There's something else, Esperanza said. Carmen believed that Derek is still active. She thought he might be targeting a new victim. What do you mean? Carmen had been tracking Derek through online dating sites. He's 72 now, but he's still looking for vulnerable women. His profile always mentions wanting to help single mothers or women going through difficult times. Isabella and I looked at each other. We told Esperanza about Derek following us, about him watching Isabella's house in Phoenix. He's not just looking for us because we're his children, Isabella said. He's looking for us because we're a threat to his current activities. What do you mean? Think about it. We're adults now. We have resources, connections, knowledge. If we expose him, his hunting days are over. So what do? I asked. Esperanza smiled, and for the first time, I saw steel in her green eyes. We're going to catch him. How? Carmen left detailed plans. She'd been working with Anna in Texas to set up a sting operation. They were going to create a fake online profile, lure Derek in, and then expose him publicly and legally. That sounds dangerous. It is dangerous. But Jessica, Isabella, think about how many other women and children we could save. Think about how many families we could reunite. Carlos, Esperanza's husband, spoke up for the first time. I've been helping Esperanza research this for 3 years. We have contacts in law enforcement, social services, and victim advocacy organizations across multiple states. We're not talking about going after Derek alone. We're talking about building a case that will put him away forever. And what about our safety? What about the girls? Isabella asked, looking worried. The ranch, I said suddenly. That's why Elena left it to me. It's not just a refuge. It's a base of operations. What do you mean? Elena helped women for 50 years, but she was limited by technology and resources. We have the internet, cell phones, social media. We can do in months what it took her decades to accomplish. Jessica's right, Esperanza said. The ranch is perfect. It's isolated enough to be safe, but it has all the infrastructure we need, and Rosa already knows how to spot trouble. So we're really going to do this? Isabella asked. We're going to go after Derek, Not just Derek, I said, feeling a sense of purpose I'd never experienced before. We're going to help our siblings find each other. We're going to help other victims. We're going to turn the ranch into exactly what Elena intended, a place where broken families can heal. And if Derek comes for us? I looked at my sisters, at Esperanza's children, at the life we were building together. Then he'll discover that the women he victimized raised daughters who are nothing like the scared girls he remembers. He told our mother she couldn't survive without him, Isabella said. He told me the same thing through Trevor, I added. And he's about to learn, Esperanza said with a smile that was equal parts determination and vengeance, that not only did we survive, we thrived, and now we're coming for him. That night, the three of us sat on the ranch porch, making plans and sharing stories late into the night. Emma and Sophie were asleep inside, and Esperanza's kids were camping out in the barn, convinced this was the best adventure ever. You know what the crazy thing is? Isabella said as we watched the stars. If Derek hadn't been such a monster, we never would have found each other. And if Trevor hadn't been such an ass, I never would have found the ranch, I added. It's like Elena said in her journal, Esperanza said. Sometimes the worst things that happen to us lead us to exactly where we need to be. So what happens now? Isabella asked. Now we prove that the Rodriguez women are a force to be reckoned with, I said. But what we didn't know was that Derek had been watching us longer than we realized, and he was about to make a move that would change everything. 2 weeks later, we were ready to put our plan into action. Anna had flown in from Texas, bringing with her a wealth of evidence that Carmen had collected over the years. Esperanza had coordinated with law enforcement in 4 states, and I had transformed Elena's ranch into a command center for the most important mission of our lives. But Derek made the first move. It was a Thursday morning, and Isabella was in the garden with Emma and Sophie while I was on a video call with a detective in Colorado. Esperanza was in town picking up supplies, and Anna was at the kitchen table organizing files. That's when Rosa called. Jessica, there's a man walking up the road toward your ranch. He matches the description you gave me of Derek. I looked out the window and saw him. He was thinner than I'd expected, grayer, but there was no mistaking the cold determination in his eyes as he walked up our driveway. Anna, call Sheriff Martinez. Tell her Derek Thompson is here. Jessica, what about Isabella and the girls? I'll get them. I ran to the garden, where Isabella was teaching the twins how to plant tomatoes. Isabella, we need to get the girls inside, now. She took one look at my face and understood. Girls, we're going to play a game. We need to go inside very quietly and hide in the safe room. Elena had built a small panic room off the main bedroom years ago. It was stocked with supplies and had a separate phone line. We'd shown the girls how to use it, making it seem like a fun adventure. As Isabella got the girls settled, I went back to the front porch. Derek was standing at the bottom of the steps, looking up at me with a smile that made my skin crawl. Hello, Jessica. You've grown up to be as beautiful as your mother. What do you want, Derek? I want my family back. I want what was stolen from me. Nothing was stolen from you. You're the thief here. He laughed, and the sound was like ice water in my veins. Is that what Elena told you? That old woman filled your head with lies. Elena told me the truth, about what you did to my mother, about what you did to Isabella, about all the other children you stole. I saved those children from mothers who couldn't care for them properly. Your mother was 19 years old, living in poverty, completely unprepared to raise children. So you decided to play God? I decided to be practical. Look how well Isabella turned out. Look how successful she became. She's a nurse. She has a good life. Would she have had that with your mother? That wasn't your choice to make, wasn't it? I'm their father. They're my children. We're not children anymore, Derek. We're women, and we make our own choices. That's when I heard car doors slamming. Sheriff Martinez had arrived with backup, but Derek didn't seem concerned. You think the police can stop me? I've been doing this for 50 years, and I've never spent a day in jail. Maybe not, but you've never faced the Rodriguez sisters before. The Rodriguez sisters? He laughed again. You mean my daughters? We mean the women who are about to destroy you. Esperanza's voice came from behind him. She had returned from town and parked down the road, approaching on foot. Anna emerged from the house, and Isabella came out onto the porch. Derek looked around at the three of us, and for the first time, I saw uncertainty in his eyes. You think because there are 3 of you, that changes anything? You're still just little girls playing dress-up. Actually, Anna said, stepping forward, there are a lot more than 3 of us. That's when the other cars started arriving. Anna had coordinated with our other siblings, and they'd all driven in for this moment. Carmen Rodriguez, Derek's daughter from 1987, now a successful lawyer from Denver. Miguel Santos, taken in 1983, now a police detective in Albuquerque. Maria Elena Thompson, taken in 1995, now a social worker in Phoenix. One by one, they got out of their cars and stood with us. 7 of Derek's stolen children, now adults, now united. Derek Thompson, Sheriff Martinez said, walking up behind him with handcuffs ready. You're under arrest for kidnapping, fraud, and child endangerment. We have warrants from 4 states. This is ridiculous. You can't prove anything. Actually, we can. Miguel stepped forward, and I realized he wasn't just Carmen's nephew. He was also one of Derek's victims and a police detective. We have testimony from 8 victims, documentation going back 40 years, and genetic evidence linking you to multiple kidnappings. The DNA samples we collected from your discarded coffee cups match the DNA of 6 different children reported as deceased, Carmen added with a lawyer's precision. Children who are very much alive and standing right here. As Sheriff Martinez read Derek his rights, he looked at each of us with a mixture of rage and disbelief. You think this ends anything? You think you've won? Derek, I said, stepping closer to him, I want you to listen to me very carefully. You told my mother she couldn't survive without you. You were wrong. You stole my sister from me, but we found each other anyway. You tried to destroy our family, but you only made us stronger. We didn't just survive, Isabella added. We thrived. And now, Esperanza said, we're going to make sure no other family has to go through what ours did. The Rodriguez sisters are just getting started, Ana concluded. As Derek was led away in handcuffs, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders that I'd been carrying my entire life. We'd done it. We'd found each other, faced our monster, and won. 6 months later, Derek Thompson was sentenced to 40 years in prison. The case made national news, leading to the reopening of dozens of cold cases and the reunion of multiple families. The ranch became exactly what Elena had dreamed, a sanctuary for women and children, a place where broken families could heal, and a headquarters for our nonprofit organization, Esperanza's Children, which helps locate missing persons and reunite families torn apart by domestic violence. Isabella finished her nursing degree online and now runs the medical clinic we built on the ranch. Esperanza moved her family to New Mexico and manages our legal advocacy program. The twins, Emma and Sophie, are thriving in the mountain air, learning to ride horses and speaking Spanish with Rosa. Trevor, I got a letter from him about a year ago. He's married now, to some poor woman who probably thinks she can't survive without him. I sent her a copy of our story with a note. When you're ready to prove him wrong, call me. As for me, I'm sitting in Elena's kitchen, watching my sisters and their children through the window, and I'm thinking about the words that started this whole journey. You can't survive without me. Derek was wrong. Trevor was wrong. And if there's any man out there telling any woman that she can't survive without him, he's wrong too. Because here's what I learned. We're not just survivors. We're warriors. We're the daughters of women who refuse to give up. We're the sisters who found each other across time and distance and pain. And we're proof that sometimes the worst things that happen to us lead us to exactly where we're supposed to be. The ranch still stands, stronger than ever, a testament to the power of women who refuse to be broken. And every time I see those beautiful red rock formations stretching toward the sky, I remember Elena's words. You're stronger than you know, mija. She was right. We all were. Hey everyone. Thank you so much for following this incredible journey with me and my sisters. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Your support means everything to us. And don't forget to follow the channel because our family's story of healing and hope is just beginning. The Rodriguez sisters have more adventures ahead, and trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next. Until next time, remember, you're stronger than you know, and you can survive anything life throws at you.